Hey guys, what is going on? I'm going to be doing a quick install video. Haven't done one of these in a while. This is going to be for our stock. This is my youngest son's Jeep Wrangler, a little sport, and it's got crappy basic radio, which I'll show you guys. It's a little dark in here. It's raining outside, so I gotta have the door closed. As you can see on the vehicle here, there's just water everywhere. Anyways, this still has the crappy radio, and I want to give him something with CarPlay, so it's easier for him when he's driving. He's a teenager, so obviously this will be easier for him to drive. Anyhow, we are going with, this is the Sony XAV-AX5000 capacitive touch. I think 55 watts times 4 extra bass, and pretty basic unit, but again what it offers is let me see if I can spin it to the right place here. It's got CarPlay and Android Auto as well, which is really nice for a teenager to have. There is a unit above this one, the AX5500, that fits on the Wranglers. I couldn't see a big difference other than, I think it was the output. There won't be a huge sound system in here, so I didn't need a big output to the sub or anything like that. Those were the only big differences that I could see. Anyhow, ordered this from Crutchfield, so I got the whole installation kit, which it's got some adapters in here. This one, I'm not sure what this one is for. I think it's like a converter for the USB plug or adapter in here. This is an antenna adapter that fits the OEM stuff. These are screws that go with this radio. Doesn't fit completely flush because it's kind of a weird sizing that they have. So these are little you know, like a faceplate that goes on the side, so it fills the gap. And then of course this is the wiring harness, which I'm gonna solder and wire up, and this is for the Uconnect system, so it can interact. I want to be able to retain the steering wheel control and for volume and changing the channel. For the wiring harness, I've done a couple other videos with installations, and it a lot of times will depend on the radio that you have from factory. There isn't an infinity option for these Jeeps, so if you have the infinity option, it might be a little bit different in terms of the extra speakers that you have. This is also a 2-door, as you can see, so I don't have as many speakers as the unlimited version. I think you get the sound bar and the front ones. I don't think there's rear speakers, and there's no rear sub because this one doesn't have the infinity sound system. So Crutchfield provides a really nice installation guide for these. I'm just going to do kind of a high level overview. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but this is the wire location here. And again, this is specific to the 2-door. They ask you when you're ordering if it's a 2-door, 4-door. I believe most of the stuff in the same. The only difference is if you have the Infinity factory sound system that has that rear sub, which this one does not. So there'll be some differences there. So I'm going to take this out, splice all the wiring to the factory radio, solder that on, and then I'll come back real quick. All right, here is the unit. I've got the radio unit, and it's pretty straightforward. The wiring is pretty straightforward, guys, and again they give you a guide right here where you can kind of match, and this is the harness that I purchased so that I can do plug and play into the OEM harness from this one. They send you two. It is a, let me see, 11B and 11A. I'm going to take the radio out to see which one's the one that I need to go to. I've got my trusty soldering iron here, and here's the head unit itself. Pretty nice. It's small. One of the things you can see is Jeeps have a weird metal bracket in the back that normally if you want to go with a true double din full radio, especially if you have a disc player, we don't need a disc player in today's time. As you guys know, everything is streamed or on your iPhone, which will connect to here. So since there's no disc, they can eliminate half the width on this right here, so it's a much smaller footprint, and it doesn't require you to modify the back of the Jeep itself, the frame. I didn't want to have to cut metal or any of that stuff, so this makes it pretty simple. I'm going to check to see which one of these harnesses is the one I need, so I got to take the factory radio out to make sure that we solder onto the correct one, and then we'll come back. Move the factory radios. Pretty straightforward. These are the tools you'll need. A panel tool like those plastic removal ones so you don't damage any trim. Looks like a utility knife, and then we've got a 7, 8, and 10 millimeter with a ratchet with a socket extension here, and a T15 and T20 Torx driver. If you've worked on Jeeps before, you know that they use a lot of Torx, so just have that ready. And then of course wire crimper and crimp caps. That's gonna be for the wiring itself, but it should be pretty straightforward. I think you start up here. Let's remove Mr. Ducky, and you should be able to pull this and put this down here. Be a little dark in here. Like I said, I had to close the door. A lot of dog hairs, but there's some screws here you remove, and then we'll pop that out. So just start at the top. There's a 7mm screw in here, and we've got that out. Then we're gonna move to the bottom. You know, pop this panel out, and there's gonna be 2 more under here because this is all one piece, and it comes out as one piece. So we'll take that out. We're gonna go over to the driver's side and pop this panel over here. You can see I used my plastic, and there's kind of like a little edge here you can pop out. Just gonna go along the side. Apologize about all the dog hairs. Previous owner used to ride his dogs in here, so this should just be able to pop out. And if not, again, use this. These tools are great for this, and as you can see, they don't do any scratches or marring to the side of the panel. And there we go. So that panel is out, and now we've got 2 more screws to pop out. This one right here, and I believe this one. So we'll take our little 7mm. Yep, it's a 7mm here as well. So let me undo those real quick. All right, guys. So in this section, it's a little hard here. Usually you can pull from here. I used the panel popper. I think it's like right around here, and this will pop. But remember, you still have wires back here, so just be careful when you pull this back. And sometimes you have to move the steering wheel down some. There we go. That should give you a little bit more room. This has never been removed, so it's on there pretty good. I think I have any more screws. Just kind of work it along the sides here. And then there's gonna be wires back there as well. So let me put this down for a second. Make sure I don't break anything. Use both hands and pry this thing out. All right, guys. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I popped this little window switch. That wire is super tight, and this won't come out the panel until you get the window switches out. So if I go in there, you see that little red tab? You have to lift that up, and then if I shine from the side here, there's a thing you can press. I'll get it out so you can see it, but without lifting that red tab up, you're not going to be able to get that connector off. So I've lifted it up with the flathead screwdriver, and then I'm going to unplug it now. All right, so we got it out. It's hard. I need a light because it's so dark in here, but let me see if I can at least show you the connector. So here's the wire, and you can see I had to lift that red tab. Kind of hard to see, but I had to lift that up so that I could press the back of the connector and unplug that. And now there's 1 more screw after you remove the wiring harness here. So you have to remove this guy. It's also a 7mm. So let's get that out, and that's the last piece that's holding this faceplate on. That holds this guy in place. Yeah, here we go. So now it's just a matter of getting this guy out. Sorry, I'm just trying to record and do this with both hands. We got it out. Ugh. So many dog hairs in here. It's insane. All right, so here we go. So you can better see now the God, this is disgusting. Sorry. You can see the tab. This is what I was talking about right there. So that's in the lock mode, and if you don't lift that up, you can't press down on this to release that connector. So just make sure you do that. And then of course remember that you do have 1 more screw on there that you have to undo before that whole panel comes off. Now we've got access to the whole radio. We've got 4 screws on here that are holding the radio in place. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those and get this radio out so we can see which harness I need to plug in. So all right, hang on a sec. So we got the four screws out. This thing's about to fall off over here. Trying to film in the dark. Usually I don't have to be holding a light, but here we go. Just 4 screws again that hold our radio in place, and now it's just a matter of disconnecting all the little panels back here, or connectors I should say. We got the radio out, and I'm gonna go grab one of the harnesses to see which one fit. But this is what I'm talking about. If you get a bigger double DIN radio, you can see there's that big metal bracket. You can remove it, but then you don't have good support for the radio. So some people modify it or cut it sometimes to fit bigger radios back there. Most people just remove it. There's 2 screws, but I do like that because you can use it at, like I said, extra support. Plus this is also the bracket that the top of the dash goes into. You don't need that little screw up there for that to be secure in place, but you might get some rattles, you might get some squeaky noises. So it's just, you know, nice to have that OEM bracket in there. That's why I went with that Sony radio, because it didn't require, not at least from what I saw, any modifications back there. So hopefully that's the case. So let me grab that harness. We'll plug everything in and see which one I need to use. All right, guys. So here we go. I got the harness, and what I found is that it looks like it's gonna be this guy right here. Let me get the full part number, see if we can see it in here. Looks like it's RP4-CH11-B. The other one, I think it's the same part number or similar, but it ends in A, and the difference is the connector. This one's more of a square one. I'm not sure if that's what you use for when you have the Infinity factory sound system, but again, this one just has the basic four speaker cheap system, so I don't need to use the other harness. This one right here has kind of a little different rectangular connector, but this is the one that fits perfectly in here. I'm trying to do this with one hand, but as you can see, that plugs right in. So we'll use this one, and maybe you can see it. Sorry, I'm trying to hold the light, but you can see that one plugs in, and that's the one I'm going to use to solder to the back of the radio harness, and we should be good to go. So that should only be a few minutes. We'll get that wired up, solder up, and get it installed. All right, guys, the PAC adapter comes with its own wiring harness. I've got one here that was provided by Crutchfield as well on the wires, and then the one for the head unit, right? So you just want to make sure you double check and triple check everything. One of the things for this steering wheel control box, make sure you set the radio switch, which is kind of hard to see. I don't know if the camera will focus. Anyways, there's a little dial. You need a little small flathead screwdriver. There's a guide in here that tells you which brand you have and what to set it to. So if you look on page 3, set the radio switch, which is on the little PAC steering wheel control converter box here. You want to set that, in my case, it's Sony, because I'm using a Sony head unit, but depending on which head unit you use, then just remember to set that. Otherwise, the steering wheel controls won't work, right? So that's the first thing. I'm going to set that, and then going back to the wiring harness here, now I'm going to match up and make sure I've got all these wires correct. Then we're going to solder and put some heat shielding on there and see if it works. Wiring harness, by the way, makes it really easy. Again, it's hard to see, but you can see the wires are labeled very nicely. It says front positive left on white, and I can confirm on here front positive left, and then that's for white. Then the white and black is right here. You can confirm it says the same thing, front left negative input, right, for that front left speaker. So just make sure that aligns. The one for the head unit, you're gonna have to match with this over here. So we would go and then try to find front speaker to left. So we need white and black stripe. So that one aligns, but that's not always gonna be the case. So don't rely on the colors entirely. For the most part, they can match up in colors, but don't rely on that. You're also gonna need a nice little wire crimper wire cutter. I love this vice grip because it auto adjusts to the size of the wire. You just put it on there, pull, and it strips the wire really nice. The PAC connector already comes with the wires pre-stripped for you. You just pull the little cables, but you'll have to do that on here. So, and don't forget to slide your heat shield, or I forget what these things are called. Anyways, the wire, these are to protect where the soldering goes. You'll use a lighter or a heat gun, if you've got one, to melt that wire securely in place so it holds even stronger and protects it from like moisture, rust, and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let me get to soldering and wiring, and hopefully this doesn't take too long. Now, guys, I'm older, so I do have this little tool here that helps me holds the wire in place, which is really nice. Then I can take my soldering gun and the solder itself, and then just easily apply it over here without burning any surface, and it gives me nice, you know, room to make a nice solder on there. So anyhow, that was like $9 on Amazon, and it just makes it really handy when you're doing these type of wiring connections. I'd show you how easy it is, but it makes it hard to film and hold. I need my headband. I don't know where my headband is to record. Anyways, you can see the wire. Just double check these wires, because sometimes it's so hard to see that it's the correct one. So here I'd make sure that I've got the black with the, or the white with the black stripe, same thing on the other end. In this case, they match exactly that way. So that is front left negative, and now the white solid is going to be the positive. So I'll go ahead and do those as well. All right, real quick, you'll notice for the green one, green and green with the black stripe, this is the rear to the left for positive and negative. There's also another green one that might be confusing, but if you pay attention here, this one actually says navigation output. So it's actually, as you can see, tied up in there. So don't worry worry about that one. Just make sure you have the right ones, that you're not grabbing the green one from the navigation output for the harness. All right, here we are. We are done soldering. That was pretty easy. Most of the wires were just matched the same color, and just make sure that it, if you have a gray with a black stripe, that's negative. That goes to the gray with the black stripe on the harness as well, for both the radio and the one that plugs into the factory harness. I used one that was too small here, so I did just end up using tape. I didn't want to have to unsolder and do all that, but good old electrical tape still works fine. Never had any issues before, and I've been destroying cars for many years and doing some questionable modifications to a lot of them. So anyways, but I think it looks pretty good. So we got everything wired up. I'm gonna go in there now, plug it in, and test the radio, make sure the speakers work. Again, remember guys, this is a really basic system in here, so I don't have the sub in there. We don't have extra speakers or anything like that. It's just 4 basic speakers, and that's all it's going to be for now. Some of these wires are for reverse camera, for the parking brake, which we'll wired up. That's just if you want to change anything. There's also parking brake eliminators, so that you can change settings and things like that when you're still moving. Not recommended, of course. Anyways, there's a little sticker on there. Set radio switch before connecting the harness. As I said, for the Sony is number 8. Just reference the chart to see which one you need. So we'll plug everything up, go test it out, and see if it works. All right guys, well, we plugged everything in. It was pretty straightforward. Let me just pull this back out so you can see it. Harness plugs right in. Again, that's why I got the aftermarket harness. And then there was one adapter, which is the yellow one right here. That was the only one plugged in on my radio. I don't have the red one because, again, this doesn't have the rear sub. Here, and let me see if I can put this down without it falling off, but you can see that I can control. So we've got, and I can change to the next song if I want, so the control works perfectly fine. I'm doing it from the steering wheel. On the Jeep, the volume control and the seek are in behind the steering wheel. I don't know if you can see it in there, but anyways, that works as well too, and that's part of why I ordered this harness over here, or this adapter. And it's super simple. Again, just set the radio. You can also do some other programming if you wanted to. I think with the voice command and some of the other things. I don't have I'm gonna have to program these, because there are buttons that you use to program the menu. That's to change some of these things here. This is an older unit, as you guys know. It's a 2012. So anyways, but if you've got some of the steering wheel controls you want to retain for like CarPlay, voice, and all that stuff, you can set that stuff up. And again, there's a green wire for the e-brake. There's an e-brake eliminator. If you do install the rear camera, what that does is when you put it in reverse, there's a signal that goes in here. That's what these wires are for that are not plugged in, and that turns on that rear camera and displays it on the unit up here. You also have input, so if you've got like an external source, video source, like a DVD player, Blu-ray player, or even a video game, you can connect them in the back. So there's multiple plugs back there. Nice little unit. Quality is really nice. Yeah, super simple. I need to get a USB cable to test the CarPlay stuff, but it's all working good right now. I'm just doing it through Bluetooth. Here's the tuner, which I'll turn down. Yeah, but I'm in the garage right now, so I'm not going to get a lot of stations. And I think you can customize like the display itself. You can change some of the colors in the menu. Here you can adjust. It's got like a little EQ you can adjust, which is kind of nice. You can do some presets that are in there, or you can also do, there's a custom one that you can have in there as well. So then if you had a subwoofer connected, you can control some of that. So again, pretty basic unit, but it'll give them CarPlay or Android Auto, which is nice. It'll stay integrated to the steering wheel, so no hands off when you're driving. So pretty nice. So let me put it all back together, and we'll finish this job. All right, here we go. Just got to put the little Little screws back in here to home, and there it is. There's the finished product. It's not too bad. Like I said, this unit is a little bit smaller than the opening. There's not a lot of radios that fit in there, so I don't love those side trim pieces, but I think it looks pretty good. It works. Volume, like I said, from the remote here, it looks pretty good. And you can change the station and channel. And we'll test. And I've got the USB for now temporarily here, so I can plug in for the CarPlay. But now all we have left to do is just plug this harness in with the switch, and then put the screws back on, and we're done. That was pretty simple, guys. All right, there it is, guys. Finished product. Everything's installed, put back together. Make sure your window switches work. So everything's good to go. Easy install. Comment below if you have any questions. Let me know if I can help. See you on the next one.